So Bernie Sanders released a list of what he's calling anti-endorsements. That's interesting. I've never heard of anything like this before. It's basically complete and utter loser weasels who hate him, and they hate him because he's uncorrupted and because he's fighting for the people. And Bernie compiled a list, and he's basically bragging about all the right people hating him. He welcomes their hatred. That's the idea behind this. Oh, it's wonderful. Oh, this is so great. What a brilliant idea. I love it so much. Anyway, let's take a look at the list here. So first it says, anti-endorsements, I ask you to judge me by the enemies I have made. That's a quote from Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So let's go to the first anti-endorsement. I don't know how to say this guy's name. I never did. Haim Saban? Haim Saban? Whatever. You can see it in front of you. He's a billionaire that has spent millions of dollars buying elections for his candidates. He called for the bombing of Iran in 2014, criticized President Obama's attempts to bring peace to the Middle East, and attacked senators for urging humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. And here's what he said about Bernie. We love all 23 candidates. No, -1. I profoundly dislike Bernie Sanders. He thinks that every billionaire is a crook. He calls us the billionaire class, and he attacks us indiscriminately. Then we have Ken Langone. He's the co-founder of Home Depot. While Ken Langone has a net worth of $3.7 billion, Home Depot pays wages so low that many of its workers are forced to rely on food stamps, Medicaid, and public housing subsidized by U.S. taxpayers. Today, cashiers at Home Depot make as little as $9 an hour, the very definition of a starvation wage. And here's what he said about Bernie. In 2016, I saw Bernie Sanders and the kids around him. I thought, this is the Antichrist. Oh, yes, you poor thing. What if your $3 billion fortune becomes only $1.5 billion? Oh, the horror. And then we have Andy Puzder, however you say it. Puzder is funnier, let's be serious. He's a former fast food CEO. As the CEO of a fast food company that owns Hardee's and Carl's Jr., Puzder made more money in a day than his minimum wage fast food workers earned in a year. He opposes increasing the minimum wage above $9 an hour, expanded overtime laws, so he opposes expanded overtime laws as well, workplace safety rules, and supports providing huge tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires. And here's what this guy said about Bernie, or Bernie's plan to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. All these proposals, Sanders' proposals, they're just going to kill the growth. Lowell McAdam is another one, former CEO of Verizon. As the CEO of Verizon, McAdam made almost $20 million a year in compensation while fighting to take away healthcare benefits from his employees and outsourcing thousands of jobs to low-wage countries. From 2008 to 2013, while Verizon made over $42.4 billion in U.S. profits, it received a tax refund of $732 million from the IRS. And here's what this guy said about Bernie supporting striking Verizon workers. The senator's uninformed views are, in a word, contemptible. Hilarious. And then Jamie Dimon, the former CEO of JP Morgan Chase. Jamie Dimon is the billionaire CEO of a bank that was fined $13 billion for mortgage fraud, illegally foreclosed on military families, bribed foreign officials, and received $416 billion in a taxpayer bailout from the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department. And he said about Bernie, just because it resonates doesn't make it right. And the list goes on and on here. You got Bob Iger, you got Jeffrey Immelt, Lloyd Blankfein from Goldman Sachs, Alan Greenspan, Third Way. I mean, it goes on and on, man. So let me tell you something. This idea is brilliant. It's brilliant because when was the last time we've seen a Democratic candidate for president basically take that FDR mantle and say, yep, this is where we're going? Hasn't happened. Hasn't happened in the modern era. Whether it was Bill Clinton or whether it was Obama, in many ways they were tonally moderate. And the idea is like, there is no black American, white American, gay American, straight American, rich American, poor American. So they would throw class in there. Like, they, in a very clever way, they sneak that in there as if it's like, ooh, this is the same thing as the gay straight thing, right? Right? And the idea is, well, I represent all Americans. What Bernie Sanders is doing is he's saying very clearly, there are people in this country who have rigged the political system against working people. I'm not for those people. I'm against those people. If you rig the system in a corrupt way to give yourself tax breaks, to give yourself loopholes to keep your money stashed overseas, to lower the corporate tax rate, to lower the capital gains tax rate, to deregulate yourself so you don't have to abide by safety rules, for example, or pollution rules, or basic regulation that protects workers. If you've done that, you are my enemy. I'm not going to work with you. I'm not going to meet you halfway. You are wrong. I am right. And I welcome your hatred. That's what he's doing here. And it's brilliant. Because you're also, on top of it being like correct, as in Bernie's right on the substance of it, it also gives people a narrative and a framework. And again, if it's a narrative and a framework and it's not true, that's not good. But this is a narrative and a framework and it's true. And the idea is, hey, you're suffering. You want to know why you're suffering? It's not because of the poor person with no money and no power who just got into this country through the southern border. That's not why you're struggling. That's the old trick that, the owner class uses to try to redirect your anger back at people who are worse off than you or in the same boat as you. The reason why you're struggling is because these billionaires and these corporations have rigged the rules against you. And they don't want you to have a living wage. They don't want you to have health care. They don't want you to have free college. They don't want your wages, to go up with productivity. Their whole job, the corporation's job is to make money. The billionaire's job is to, make money and try to get as few rules as possible in the process with running their respective companies. So Bernie's stepping up here and saying, no, I'm not for these people. I'm not working with these people. I'm not meeting them halfway. They are my enemies, and I'm proud that they're my enemies. The fact that they are my enemies means I'm doing something right, because their ideas when it comes to politics are incredibly odious and terrible and hurt people. So this is the first time since FDR that we're really seeing this kind of argument being made. And I think it's really important to let everybody know about it because, again, there's a lot of people out there faking the funk, man. There's a lot of people out there who are pretending that, who, me? I'm a swashbuckling, anti-corruption, populist lefty. That's who I am. And then they go meet, and have one of those dinners where they rub elbows on the cocktail circuit with Wall Street CEOs. And, they ask them for money. And then they'll go around and say, I don't take corporate PAC money. Okay, but that's not the whole picture. Are you having those fundraising dinners? Because those are really just as bad as the corporate PAC money. Are you taking money from billionaires? If you're not raising money mostly from small dollar donations, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about how you think you're anti-corruption. Because the reality is you're going to represent those people who are giving you the most money and who are helping you the most. So there's a lot of candidates out there, Kirsten Gillibrand, Kamala Harris, who are, even Elizabeth Warren said, yeah, I'll take corporate money in the general election because we got to use everything we can to beat Trump, even if it means violating our principles and being corrupt. So there's a lot of people faking it. Bernie ain't faking it. He's out here to do the right thing. And I don't have to question where Bernie Sanders' loyalty lies. And that, in today's day and age when it comes to politics, is absolutely everything.